On Mirchi, New Jersey, it's Vijaya warmly welcoming you to the Immigration Hour brought to you by Nockman Fulwani Zimovchek, NPZ Law Group, accomplished immigration lawyers helping make the dream of US and Canadian immigration a reality. Let's welcome Snehal Batra. She's managing attorney at NPZ's Raritan Office. Welcome, Snehal. Kemcho.
Hi, Vijaya. Kemcho. Namaste to you and our Radio Mirchi listeners.
Thank you, Snehal. And can you please tell us about the Department of State memo on public charge and what it means?
Sure. That's a good question. So on November 6th, recently, the Department of State, they sent a cable to all the consular posts that radically expands the public charge related factors of inadmissibility and the type of evidence that officers should consider when they are looking at this issue, whether the applicant will become a public charge. So it's like a very strict directive on this because it significantly expands the depth of inquiry that the officers are going to be making. And so it tells the officers to be vigilant for visa applications and to deny the visas where applicants can't demonstrate that they won't be a public charge at any time after admission, which conflicts with the Foreign Affairs Manual, which says that, they really should be considering factors that exist when the visa application is submitted. So it's a departure from existing regulations. So now what the cable says is that officers should examine all aspects of the applicant's personal, financial, medical, and familial profile, that they can request any additional documents that they think is relevant. And there are 5 factors that are relevant to this public charge determination, and this cable specifically tells the officers how they should interpret them. So the first factor is age, right? So our elderly applicants, they have to demonstrate credible plans for support. They're going to consider the applicant's ability to work long enough in the U.S. to fund their retirement and avoid expensive long-term care. Second factor is health. This is a big one. Chronic or high-cost conditions, including diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, or serious mental health conditions, they're going to be evaluated if the applicant's ability to lifelong care without resorting to public assistance. So they're going to review the medical exam, but they're also going to look at health conditions beyond those, like whether the applicant appears to be obese, which is identified as a potential risk to public charge. Also, if the applicant says, we expect to rely on insurance when we get a job in the U.S. to cover these costs, they're gonna assess the likelihood of the applicant actually getting a job that's going to provide insurance. And then also after retiring, how and whether the applicant is going to be able to continue to maintain insurance. So it's really interesting because the existing language prohibits the officer from finding a public charge issue based on what if scenarios, what if possibilities, what if the applicant loses their job, what if they're faced with a medical emergency. It actually tells the officers that they're required to assess, the totality of the circumstances existing when they're applying, when they're submitting their application. So this is a departure. A couple more factors I'm going to talk about. The third is the family status, number of minor children, elderly parents, dependents. That could weigh heavily against the applicant. And even if you have no dependents, the officer still has to take a look at the likelihood that if you're going to be able to take care of yourself to avoid, being placed on some type of government subsidized care. The fourth factor is assets and financial status. The applicant has to show that they have documented assets to withstand any kind of income disruption, medical emergencies. So they're going to be asking for bank records, retirement accounts, life insurance. Another big one, which is the fifth factor, is education and skills. So they're instructing officers to do these interviews in English whenever possible. And for applicants that don't speak English, the officer is going to assess how long is it going to take for this person to become proficient.
Whoa.
They're saying lack of necessary English language proficiency could call into question your ability to become or remain self-sufficient. in the U.S. So they're going to look at the likelihood of you finding a job, whether you can communicate in English. So they're going really deep. Whether you need some kind of license and whether that's your language could, impede your employability. So it's tough.
Very tricky situation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And slippery slope.
And even if you have we have an affidavit of support where the petitioner agrees hey, I'm going to financially support this person. That's just the starting point, the minimum income threshold. They're going to scrutinize the sponsor's ability, their financial history, their use of public benefits. That's another big one. Not only are they going to look at if the applicant used public benefits, but whether any dependents used public benefits. So, we saw a lot of this happen during, Trump, the first administration. And fortunately, when Biden took office, the Biden administration in 2022, they basically restored the long-standing interpretation of public charge. But here we are again under Trump 2.0 and their renewed efforts to restrict, family-based immigration by redefining public charge. And recently also on November 29th, the Department of Homeland Security, they posted a notice of proposed rulemaking that is going to rescind a lot of this 2022 Biden administration regulation. So this is just the beginning, folks. So please be sure to thoroughly prepare your loved ones that you're sponsoring, that have upcoming interviews, to be prepared because there's no waiver for inadmissibility for public charge. You basically have to provide evidence to convince them that you're not going to be a public charge. There are some provisions for posting a bond, but it's very rare. So again, please call us if you have any concerns and if they're going to be appearing at the consulate, because you just have to know how to overcome this issue. And we're here for you.
Yeah, a very tricky, difficult situation here. But of course, the NPZ Law Group is there, your one-stop shop for the entire range of US and Canadian immigration matters. So reach out to them for this as well. And the way to do that is to visit visaserve.com or call them at 201-670-0006 and get that special discount when you mention Mirchi. And thank you so much for that, Snehal. Much more with the NPZ Law Group, your friend and guide for all things immigration. We'll be back in just a moment. Keep listening to Mirchi, It's Hot.